right, Whitney Houston fans, just want to do a quick video about the new movie that just came out. I have not seen it yet, but I want to dance with somebody. And this video was just me kind of talking about the fact that, personally speaking, I feel like we're kind of oversaturated in terms of just movies or biopics about Whitney Houston herself. And something that I've noticed over the years is kind of a trend where it's kind of like Bobby Brown and his camp versus the Houston estate, basically the Houston family. Like whenever Bobby Brown, announces, oh, I'm doing a documentary, I'm doing a reality TV show, I'm doing a mini series or a movie about my life, it isn't long after that, or, a new book, it isn't long after that where we'll see something about Whitney Houston in the works. Oh, Whitney, a new posthumous album is coming out, a new book is coming out, oh, we're doing a new biopic and whatnot. And it just feels like a war of the estates, where in a way you can kind of see why this is happening. So for example, when there's like a Bobby project, Whitney will more than likely be involved with it in terms of her relation to him. But then it might be like, the Houston family doesn't like how Whitney was depicted, so we're going to put out our own project, depicting Whitney in the light that we wanted her to be showcased in, because she was more than just, the drugs and whatnot. And sadly, just like Bobby, Whitney and Bobby were just amazing musical talents of their time, but once they got together, their antics and the darker parts of their existence overshadowed their amazing talents. So for me, I'm looking at IMDb, Wikipedia of the various Whitney projects over the years. I think I actually saw part of it last night. There was a Whitney, this was on Lifetime, I believe, back in 2015. I believe Angela Bassett directed the film, and I think Bobby was actually involved as well. I could be wrong, but I do know once that film came out on Lifetime, Bobby Brown had like a, interview following it right there on the network. So basically from there, you have the 2017 film, Can I Be Me, which was kind of a, documentary like film that was released. And where was it released at? It wasn't in America. I think it was created overseas in Britain or something. But the Whitney film that stands out, and this is just me personally, it was 2018. It was a film, but it was more in the style of a documentary that covered basically Whitney's entire life. This was probably the most in-depth Whitney Houston project I'd ever seen, because it felt like an extended cut of unsung or behind the music, those documentary style specials where they focus on a group or a musical act and they break things down from how they got started, their first taste of success once they reached, a certain peak, but then drugs or, just bad habits led to their downfall. And then what happened after that? Did they make a comeback? And then more often than not, they meet some form of a gruesome or tragic demise. So it just kind of saddens me that we just keep, as in terms of black entertainment, it's only a select few who get numerous specials or biopics and whatnot. I feel like for me, the New Edition story was the first example of, hey, we don't have to just deal with the big three, Prince, Michael, and Whitney. There are other musical acts out there who we can focus on, bring to the spotlight to showcase black talent in general. So I remember BBD during one radio interview when the New Edition story was first, airing on BET and the group was doing their press run. They talked about how, we had shopped the movie around for years. The problem was a lot of people felt like nobody cared about New Edition. It was just Bobby Brown, Bobby and his relationship to Whitney. That was like the hot ticket to get views and streaming numbers and whatnot. And from a business perspective, yeah, it does make sense. But once the full story is out there, because I think Mike said in the interview, Michael Bivins, the thing about the New Edition story, which made it so big, is you see the entire thing. It isn't just Bobby and Whitney. You got to know how Bobby came up and how he got started with New Edition, which led to him getting kicked out, going out on his own. And then, that led to Whitney, but which of course the Bobby Brown story was more integral to that, because the New Edition story, it wasn't about each individual member. It was about the group as a whole, how they came together. So that's what made the Bobby Brown story even more impactful, because it kind of filled in the blanks or the missing puzzle pieces that the New Edition story didn't, because remember, it wasn't about Bobby, it was about the whole group. But that's why I really love like Unsung. You have so many underrated or overshadowed musical talents that we get to see their story in like 40-minute segments. Some on rare occasions get like a two-parter. I think there have been a couple of episodes like that, but overall, I just think that aside from Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, there are other musical talents that could be showcased in a movie or, a mini series on TV with the same level of effort. Because, of course, one of the biggest sins of biopics is, I know not all the time you can get someone who looks like a dead ringer for the person that they're portraying, but it does seem a bit off-putting at times when you have an actor, playing the role of a Whitney Houston or, another big name, and they don't look the part. Like, for example, Get On Up. It took me aback when I saw the trailers. I'm like, well, Chadwick Boseman doesn't look anything like James Brown. But I think my favorite part of the movie was at the very end where he was singing Try Me. Obviously, at that point, James Brown was a lot older. So, he had like makeup on and things like that. And I felt like that was the only time he truly looked like James Brown at the end. But overall, in terms of like the mannerisms, body language, I think Chadwick had it down. But in terms of the look, I wasn't really feeling it. So when it comes to this film, I did post in the community tab about it. And a couple people did say that they went to watch the premiere or they went to the theaters to see the Whitney film. And they said it was pretty good because it wasn't so much about the demons that she dealt with, mainly drugs. Let's just talk about the drugs. It was more about a celebration of her life and her voice. And with that being said, I will watch it at some point, but I'm not going to rush to theaters to watch it. When it's available on streaming, or heck, even when it's available on home release like DVD or Blu-ray, I might pick it up, but I'm not going to rush to watch it because I've already seen so many, specials about Whitney that I want to see something else. But she is the voice, the voice of a generation, not just with black people, but one of the most iconic voices of all time. But what do you think? I mean, if you've already seen the movie, let me know in the comments. How did you like it? Did you think it was good? Because like I said, even if it isn't the Houston family making these projects, Whitney Houston isn't, is present in other projects such as the Bobby Brown story, for example, like I mentioned before. But I do wish other black acts got the same, notoriety. Like, for example, when the New Edition story came out, or the Bobby Brown story, and Teddy Riley, he was portrayed by an actor who looked pretty damn similar to him. People are like, yo, we need to do a documentary on Guy. Since we got this person who looks like Teddy Riley, why not put him in there? So, yeah, I just hope that at some point in the future, we will see other musical acts, black acts get movies and documentaries like this. But also, when you look at like a Michael Jackson or Prince, or mainly Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, it's dang near impossible to talk about their lives and their, careers without talking about the things that kind of overshadowed them at one point. With Whitney, it was the drugs. With Michael, it was the, court cases and trials about, his involvement with children. So, for example, when it comes to like Michael Jackson's specials, for example, during the Off the Wall anniversary, I forgot what anniversary number it was, but it was like from Journey from Motown to Off the Wall, and then Bad 25. I love those particular documentaries because of the fact that they only focused on the music and and where Michael was in terms of his life at those times. And I feel like if the Whitney film does indeed focus on that kind of stuff, like the people have been saying in the reviews, I will probably enjoy it. But in terms of, how much is too much, I think we've already reached that point. So that's just my opinion, because, you know, at least with the white artists, they do movies like the ones I'm thinking of recently. But then they do an Elton John and an Elvis film. So at least they're kind of spreading it around to not just the same couple people over and over and over again. But that's just me. I know it's kind of like, you know, when it comes to another example, the random example, but for Power Rangers, when it comes to fans wanting more than just Mighty Morphin in terms of the, you know, merchandise, the toys, the action figures and whatnot. It's like, well, nostalgia is the reason that they keep putting out those products, because they know people will buy it, compared to oh, nobody's going to really care if they put out a Lightspeed Rescue Megazord, or if they did a, you know, Wild Force Megazord. The Green Ranger, White Ranger, Red Ranger from the first season is a guaranteed hit, which is why I feel like people gravitate towards those projects. It's like, okay, we know if we do anything that's Michael related, Prince related, Whitney Houston related, it's going to put butts in the seats, compared to let's do a movie on the OJs or something like that. But hell, I'd love to see an OJ movie, a Spinners movie, but I grew up old school. That's probably why. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you've seen the Whitney Houston movie, would you recommend it? Or are you like me, where it's like you kind of want to see a little bit more than just the same, you know, artists getting movies over and over again? So thanks so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below, and I will catch you in the next one.